For 60 years, Ford built heavy trucks in America, the kind that hauls steel across mountain passes and timber through the Pacific Northwest. Then one morning in February 1997, it was over. The line went quiet, and everything Ford had built, the technology, the tooling, 60 years of dealer relationships, was sold to a competitor for $200 million. That competitor was Freightliner. But here's the question that never got a clean answer. Ford was still building good trucks when they sold. So why did Ford disappear from the Class 8 market? The answer has two sides. One is the story that Ford had better places to invest its money than on semi-trucks. The other is how Freightliner spent 20 years building the exact position it needed and then waited for the right moment to make one move. What looks like normal competition only makes sense until you see how consistently the same pattern kept repeating year after year. To understand how Ford lost, you have to understand what Ford actually built. The 1976 LTL 9000 was a serious truck, a genuine Class 8 competitor that fleet managers bought in volume and drivers called a throne. The fuel economy numbers were real. By the early 1980s, Ford held 15% of the American Class 8 market. Not dominant, but serious. The kind of presence that takes decades to build. Nobody on that factory floor in 1982 understood they were standing at the high water mark. At that exact moment, something was already happening on the other side of the market. In 1981, the same year Ford was selling trucks at serious volume, Daimler-Benz acquired Freightliner. And what Daimler brought to that acquisition changed everything. In 1981, Daimler-Benz acquired Freightliner. That one transaction created a competitive imbalance that would take 15 years to fully play out. Ford's truck division sat inside a giant American automaker, one where the F-Series was generating billions, the Explorer was rewriting the SUV market, and the Taurus was winning sales awards. Against those numbers, heavy trucks were always going to be a harder argument for capital. Freightliner didn't face that negotiation. Daimler brought German capital into the American market with a single directive: grow. No competing product lines, no margin comparisons working against them, just runway. Between 1981 and 1991, Freightliner's vehicle sales more than doubled. Every year, Ford's market share drifted. Freightliner didn't just grow, they absorbed the space Ford was leaving behind before anyone else could move in. Dealer locations in regions where Ford's presence was already thin. Fleet relationships in markets where Ford was losing ground. Service infrastructure that compounded year over year. Ford needed investment at the exact moment the rest of the company had better places to put it. Freightliner never had that conversation. So Ford is losing ground quietly. Freightliner is building quietly, and the distance between them is widening every year. Ford's share of the heavy truck market didn't collapse. It drifted. 15% became 13. 13 became 10. Not because of one failure, but because every year the gap between what Ford needed and what Ford got kept getting a little wider. By 1987, the Louisville plant was running at half capacity, built for a market share that no longer existed, employing real people who had built their lives around the assumption that this division had a future. Year after year, Freightliner was adding dealer relationships that Ford would later discover couldn't be replicated on short notice. Fleet contracts won not just on product quality, but on service infrastructure built one relationship at a time over years. Some industry analysts said it openly that year. Maybe Ford should exit the heavy truck market. Ford's answer was to build something. And what they built was genuinely impressive. A truck that earned real attention from the people who drove it, which makes what happened next harder to explain. Ford spent years building the truck that many inside the company believed would save the division. The Aero Max launched in 1994. The cab redesign was significant. Better aerodynamics, a more modern interior. The vocational configurations, construction, fire trucks, tankers, municipalities, were strong precisely where Ford had always had its most loyal customers. Reviews were decent. Fleet managers bought it. Drivers who climbed in came out impressed. Ford had done what it said it would do, and within a year of the launch, Ford was in sale discussions with Freightliner's parent company. Let that sit for a moment. The truck that was supposed to save the division launched in 1994. Ford began figuring out how to exit the business in 1995. The Aero Max wasn't a failure. It was a truck that arrived 1 decade too late into a market where Freightliner had spent years systematically claiming the relationships and infrastructure that Ford needed to sell at scale. A good truck couldn't fix that. Nothing could fix that quickly. By 1994, Freightliner held 25% of the American Class 8 market and was still climbing. Ford had 5%. When the Aero Max hit showrooms, closing the gap would have required not just a better product, it would have required rebuilding everything. The dealer network needed investment to expand in markets where Freightliner had already spent years establishing themselves. Ford's trucks ran on Cummins engines, Eaton transmissions, Dana axles. Every supplier took a margin. At 5% market share, the volume wasn't there to make the economics work. Hadn't been there for years. The sale wasn't a sudden decision. It was the conclusion of a process that had been building since 1982. By 1995, Ford was in active discussions, not about whether to exit, about the terms. And what Freightliner was about to acquire for $200 million was worth considerably more than $200 million. February 19, 1997. Ford and Freightliner announced the deal. The price, an estimated $200 million. For that, Freightliner received Ford's complete truck technology and tooling, the engineering specifications built over 60 years, the service parts business generating ongoing revenue from every Ford truck already on American roads, 257 truck dealerships across the United States and Canada. Freightliner had timed the deal perfectly and acquired assets worth far more than the price they paid. Freightliner's market share the day the deal closed jumped from 29% to over 38%. Their dealer network doubled overnight. Industry observers called the $200 million price a bargain, which means Ford got less than what they were selling was worth. Ford converted the Louisville plant to SUV production. Everyone assumed the trucks were gone. They weren't. Less than a year later, many of the same trucks were back. Same platform, same tooling, same dealers, different badge on the hood. The new name was Sterling. Freightliner launched Sterling trucks in 1998 using the technology, the tooling, the dealer network, and the customer relationships acquired from Ford. Aimed directly at the vocational market where Ford had spent 60 years building loyalty. Construction companies that had bought Ford trucks for decades bought Sterling trucks instead. Through the same dealerships, with the same service teams, from people they already knew and trusted. The trucks that Ford's engineers designed, sold through the infrastructure Ford developed, just under a name that Freightliner owned. Sterling ran until 2009. Freightliner extracted more than a decade of market value from assets they had acquired for $200 million. While all of this was happening in the Class 8 market, something else was happening on the other side of Ford's business. Ford didn't disappear. They accelerated. The capital that had been defending a 5% market share in Class 8 trucks went straight into the products Ford was already winning with. The F-Series grew. The Expedition launched. The Explorer held its position as the defining SUV of its era. Through the late 1990s and into the 2000s, Ford wasn't a company in retreat. It was a company that had made a clean decision and was executing against it with everything it had. By almost every financial metric, the years following the sale looked like vindication. So from Ford's side, the story reads as clarity. We were spreading resources across a market we couldn't win. We concentrated them into markets we could. The numbers proved us right. That reading is defensible. But here's the other side of the same deal. Did Freightliner do this on purpose? Not just the purchase, the whole thing, from the beginning. Because look at what actually happened. By the mid-1990s, Freightliner had spent 15 years building the one thing Ford could no longer rebuild quickly: distribution, service, and loyalty at scale. Freightliner didn't find a gap Ford left open. They made the gap bigger every year. Think about what that looks like in practice. Every dealer Freightliner opened in the 1980s was one more dealer Ford would need to compete against, and couldn't. Every fleet buyer Freightliner locked in was one less buyer Ford could count on when things got hard. Every year Freightliner grew its service network, Ford customers had one more reason to switch and one less reason to stay. They weren't waiting for Ford to fall. They were building a world where Ford falling was the only way it could go. The trucks Ford built were good. The people who built them were proud of what they made. The drivers who bought them knew exactly what they had. And the company that bought all of it, the factories, the customers, the 60 years of work, turned it into an 11-year business and walked away having paid almost nothing for it. Call it smart business if you want, but nothing in this story required Freightliner to break the rules, only to understand them earlier than Ford did. Whether that pattern was planned or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because its effects didn't end with the sale. The engineers who built Ford's trucks didn't stop knowing how to build trucks when the division was sold. The drivers who loved those trucks didn't stop loving them because the company shifted to SUVs. The dealers didn't disappear. They became Sterling dealers, then Freightliner dealers. The infrastructure lived on. The relationships lived on. Only the Ford nameplate disappeared. Two companies, one deal, both convinced they made the right move. Ford saw a division they couldn't afford to keep. Freightliner saw 60 years of infrastructure they couldn't afford to build from scratch. But only one of them planned for it to end this way from the beginning. If this gave you a different perspective on how industries actually work, subscribe.